My name is Lee, and this is Ted. We met in Jingdezhen during a spring tour in 2025. Ted asked me many questions about resident artists, like how much they sell, how much they earn, and how saturated the art market is. These money questions, while honest, can sometimes feel too direct or even stressful for some artists. So I told him a story. And now I'd like to share it with others too, especially those visiting Jingdezhen. It's a small reminder to be mindful of the silent struggles many artists face.
When you come to Jingdezhen and you visit some artist studios or their showrooms or even their little booths in the flea markets, there are some questions that are better not to ask. Last year, in 2024, I met a resident artist in Jingdezhen. His name was Mr. Ouyang. He unfortunately passed away. Now, I don't mean to say that asking sensitive questions will make a resident artist die from sadness or anything like that. What I mean is there is a group of people in Jingdezhen, these resident artists, and their lives are not easy. When you see their shops, whether it's a neat little gallery or just a small setup in the flea market, even if you are curious, don't ask them right away about their rent and don't ask how much property management fees there and how much for commercial electricity and things like that. Because in Jingdezhen, the pressure to survive is real. Just to bring up those cost and expense topics can easily bring their mood down. Mr. Ouyang was a resident artist in his 40s. He came from southern Jiangxi province, Ganzhou city. He moved to Jingdezhen for a chance to study at the ceramic university. Unlike many cities in Jiangxi, Jingdezhen actually has better opportunities for artistic entrepreneurship. After studying ceramic art at the university, he opened a little studio, starting from a tiny booth in the flea market. For many young people, it's a path toward their dreams, and Mr. Ouyang was no exception. After graduation, he started from scratch, a broke college student, building up his own business, using tools from shared workshops and his own creative ideas to make ceramic gifts and sell them. Let me pause his story for a second and talk about another sensitive question. When you meet an artist, they're usually self-employed, meaning they work for themselves. So, another question that's best avoided is, how many pieces do you sell a month? Everyone knows that winter at the flea market is the cold season for all ceramic creators. Most of their stalls are outside. They used to sell right off the ground, but now there's usually a small table and big umbrella for shade or rain. But in winter, it's freezing, bone-chilling wind, and there are fewer tourists. They typically set up around 4 o'clock in the afternoon and pick up by 8 o'clock p.m. and sometimes earlier if their body can't handle it anymore. Spring, summer, and autumn are a little better, but still, for working yourself doesn't mean it's easy. So the second question, how many pieces do you sell? Just don't ask. It triggers a lot of heavy emotions. Mr. Ouyang started his business, but he was facing huge survival pressure. With his peers, it wasn't easier. They had similar educational backgrounds, used similar workshop tools and materials, and so it was easy for their works to start looking alike. So besides external market pressure, they also faced internal peer competition. Mr. Ouyang grew up in this environment of intense competition. What we call 内卷 in Chinese, evolution, and gradually built up his first pot of gold. Let's take a step back and look at the bigger picture. From 2017 to 2019, China's real estate market was booming. After that, it crashed. And now, in 2025, it's basically collapsed. Some people say, if you can catch the wind, even the pig can fly. Those 3 years were golden years for poetry lovers and creators in Jingdezhen. There were two major reasons for this boom. First, live stream sales took off through Douyin, Xiaohongshu, and Kuaishou. Such Chinese social media gave young and experienced people a chance to start their business at lower cost. Back then, Taoxi Trans Ceramic Art Park gave 3 stalls to university students under 30 years old, as long as their work was original. Original meant unique, handmade by themselves, not by wholesale from somewhere else or reselling it here. Second reason, money laundering. A lot of capital with shady origins, corrupt officials, embezzlers used high-priced ceramic art purchases as a way to claim their money. At the time, our work could sell for tens of thousands, even over 100,000 or 200,000 Chinese yuan, equivalent to 14,000 US dollars to 30,000 US dollars. Mr. Ouyang caught that wave, and it opened the door to his financial success. By his late 30s, nearly 40, he had made his first real income and gotten through the hardest years of starting up. But life is strange. When God opens a window, he often closes a door. Years of overwork and endless labor, combined with emotional strain from a long-distance marriage, took a toll on him. He created his art, filed it, sold it all by himself, no assistant and no staff. He went through the entire journey alone. And that's why I said earlier, there are a few questions you really shouldn't ask, such as how much is your rent, how many pieces do you sell per month, and what's your marriage life like? Because Jingdezhen is not just a place for entrepreneurship, it's also a place where emotions collapse. Whether you are a man or lady, many of these artists live in a long-term loneliness, emotion, confusion, and desperate need for understanding and love. They feel like they're drifting in the waves, one day up and one day down, always uncertain. When they were broke, they dreamed of making money. Once they made money, they found their soul empty. Mr. Ouyang's wife stayed in their hometown, and the long-distance marriage began to fall apart. They argued often and then stopped communicating altogether. In the summer of 2024, his apprentice told me that where I got this story from. His wife came to Jingdezhen, and they had another strong fight. Mr. Ouyang had been complaining of chest tightness. He had a smoking habit and ordered fast foods often in the outside restaurants. But he didn't realize he might have had a heart attack or stroke. Years of fatigue had pushed his body to the edge. He and his wife, whenever they met, they fought. His wife didn't want to give in either. It was a broken marriage, and he was furious. The next morning that day was in August. He didn't get up. Even at 10 in the morning, still no movement. His wife, surprised, opened the door. He found him lying on bed, arms stripped upward as if trying to grab something. His body was already stiff. She called 120 emergency van. By the time the ambulance took him to the hospital, he had no signs of life. That night, no one knew when he died. It had already happened silently. His operators later came to my studio to collaborate with me, and that's how I learned about Mr. Ouyang's tragic story. So, how did he die? You've probably guessed it out now. On the surface, it was a heart attack or stroke, but the real cause, loneliness, pressure, overwork, unhealthy habits. So the next time you come to Jingdezhen and you meet any resident artist, remember there are some things you shouldn't ask. They are struggling on the front line of survival, torn between making money, fighting faith, and searching for love. They work with a dream in their hearts, but reality is cruel. That's the story of a resident artist in Jingdezhen, Mr. Ouyang, and his tragic passing. I hope that by hearing it, you will understand and maybe even appreciate the quiet struggles of the young resident artists still fighting to live and to create in Jingdezhen. If you listen all the way through, thank you. Don't forget to give me a thumb up and hit that subscribe button. I'd really appreciate this support.